Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to dive into one of the most fundamental ideas in React, state. You ever stop and wonder how an app just remembers stuff? Like what's in your shopping cart or what song is playing? Well, that's all thanks to state. It's basically a component's memory. I mean, think about it. It's something we do 1,000 times a day without a second thought. You click like, and the little heart fills in. You type something, and the search results just appear. But what's actually happening under the hood? How does that simple click tell the screen it needs to update? That's the exact puzzle we're going to solve today.
So to make this all super concrete, we're going to work with a really simple example, an image gallery. All we want is for it to show the next image when we click a next button. Sounds easy, right? But it's the perfect way to see why we need state in the first place.
Okay, so first things first, let's see what happens when we try to build this gallery without giving our component any kind of memory. We're going to try the most obvious approach first, and you'll see pretty quickly where it all breaks down. Now, if you're coming from a regular JavaScript background, your brain probably goes straight to one thing, a local variable. Just create a variable called index, and every time someone clicks, we'll just add one to it. It's a totally logical first step, but yeah, it's just not going to cut it in the world of React. And here's where things get a little weird. If you were to put a console.log in there, you'd see the index variable changing. You click, it goes from 0 to 1, click again, 1 to 2. The logic is working perfectly. But on the screen, nothing. Zilch. It's just stuck. So what gives? Why isn't our UI updating? It really boils down to two huge problems. First, on the left, local variables have no memory between renders. Every single time React re-renders your component, it's like running the function for the very first time. That index variable just gets reset back to 0. Poof, gone. And second, on the right, changing a variable doesn't trigger anything. It's a silent change. React has no idea that something important happened, so it doesn't know it needs to update the screen. So what we need is a special kind of variable, one that can survive between renders and can tell React, hey, wake up, something changed, you need to re-render. And that, my friends, is where our hero comes in. Let's meet our very first React hook, useState. So before we even touch the code, what is state? Honestly, the simplest way to think about it is right here. It's component-specific memory. It's a little memory bank that belongs to just one component, letting it remember things like which image is currently showing or what a user typed into an input field. To get this memory, React gives us these special tools called hooks that let us tap into its core features. You'll know it's a hook because its name always starts with use. And the one we need right now is, you guessed it, useState. This is the thing that gives our component the memory it's been missing. Okay, check out this side by side. On the left, that's our old way, total bust. On the right, this is the React way. See the difference? Instead of let index equals 0, we call useState 0. And instead of just changing index directly, we call that special setIndex function. This is the key. So that weird-looking const index setIndex syntax, what's that all about? It's actually super simple. When you call useState, it gives you back an array with exactly two things in it. The first thing is the actual value of your state, the index in our case. The second thing is a special function, the setIndex function, that you must use to update that value. It's the magic button that tells React to do its thing. And this is where the real magic happens. How does calling that little setIndex function actually make the pixels on your screen change? Let's trace the entire journey from click to update. Okay, let's walk through this loop. Step 1, the initial render. Our component runs for the first time, React sees useState 0 and says, got it, I'll remember that index is 0. Step 2, a user clicks the button. Our code calls setIndex1. Now for step 3, the crucial part. React gets that request, puts a re-render in its to-do list, and updates its internal memory of index to be 1. And finally, step 4, the re-render. React runs our component function again, but this time when it gets to useState, it says, oh, I know this one. The new value is 1. And it gives that back. Our component then renders with the new value and the UI updates. Boom. So if you remember one thing, remember this. That state setter function does two jobs. It updates the value, sure, but more importantly, it's the trigger. It's what tells React, hey, it's time to render this component again with the new information. That's the secret sauce of reactivity.
All right, but there's another superpower that state has, and it's a big one. It's the fact that state is completely private and isolated. It belongs to one component and one component only.
To really see this in action, let's just ask a simple question.
What happens if we put two of our gallery components right next to each other on the same page? Do they share their memory? Do they get confused?
And the answer is a big, fat no. Each time you use gallery/block, it gets its own totally independent piece of state. They might be built from the same blueprint, but when the page loads, React gives each of them their own little memory bank. They both start with an index of 0, and React keeps them completely separate.
This is huge. It means you can click the next button on that first gallery all day long, and the second gallery won't even notice. It'll just sit there on its own first image. State is completely private. A parent component can't mess with it, and a sibling component can't either. This is what makes React components so sturdy and reusable.
Whew, okay, that was a lot, I know. So let's just take a breath and boil it all down to the most important rules you need to remember about state.
So, here are the big takeaways. Anytime a component needs to remember something, you reach for use state. Remember, all hooks start with the word use, and you always call them right at the top of your component. It gives you back two things, the current value and that all-important setter function. And finally, never forget that state is totally private and isolated to its own component instance.
And that leaves us with a really interesting puzzle, doesn't it? We've just established that state is locked away inside each component. But real-world apps aren't just one component. They're made of tons of components that all need to talk to each other. So if their memory is private, how do they share information? And figuring that out, well, that's the next step in building some truly powerful React apps. Thanks for joining me.